preaching of necessity requires action, right? You're leading people towards life change. You could teach all day long and the purpose be information transfer, right? That's what seminary is. That's what maybe Sunday school might be. I mean, sure, you might want people to take action, but it's not primarily the goal. Preaching, it has to be. It must be. Hey everybody, my name's Lane. This is Preaching Donkey. This video is actually taken from an interview that I did on the Something More podcast with host Steve Karma out of the UK. We talked about a lot of things relating to preaching, church leadership, and the challenges that we face in the current climate that we're in. I think this video is going to be really beneficial to you, and I can't wait to hear what you think about it in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and give this video a like. It really helps for YouTube to share with more pastors so that more people can see this content.
So what does preparation look like for the preacher?
A lot of it has to do with the context. So in a local church setting, I can just speak it from my church. We're going to preach in series. And so the series itself is going to kind of point the direction of where any individual sermon lands. So the series has an overall kind of goal that we want to hit. And so from there, with an individual sermon, we're going to determine what the bottom line or the main idea is for that message. That's going to be drawn out of the text, which is going to be part of the planning of the series. We're going to plan out where these texts fall in line. But once I have that bottom line and I've drawn it from the text, I'm going to spend some focused time in study of the text. And what I'm really looking for is the tension. I want to see where the questions are, where the problems are, where people are going to wrestle naturally with what's being taught. Because tension is interesting. Tension is what causes spiritual tension is what causes life change. Spiritual tension is what makes people make a decision, right? Preaching of necessity requires action, right? You're leading people towards life change. You could teach all day long and the purpose be information transfer, right? That's what seminary is. That's what maybe Sunday school might be. I mean, sure, you might want people to take action, but it's not primarily the goal. Preaching, it has to be. It must be. So when I'm studying the text, I'm looking for the tension. Where's the problem? Where's the question? Where's the real life that people are going to lean in and say, yes, I really deal with this. There was a professor, Howard Hendricks. I referenced him before at DTS. I heard him giving a talk to seminarians, preaching students in the 70s. And he was talking about cultural relevancy. Okay. So this is 50 years ago. And he said, people ask me, how do I make the Bible relevant? And he said, friend, if it ain't relevant, there's nothing you can do to make it relevant. And that is just as true 50 years later as it was then. The Bible is relevant. And so you've got to draw out and let people see where this tension is and where this relevancy is and where it hits in their real life. And that takes work, right? So once I have that, I'm gonna draw that out and I'm gonna see how do I use the bottom line? And maybe the bottom line needs to be adjusted when I see what that tension is. But how do I use the bottom line as a hinge that the sermon rests on, right? So I'm gonna be revisiting this bottom line, which is going to be the resolution of the tension. Go ahead.
So how do you get that? So let's say I don't know. Do you start preparing on Monday morning? So how do you get there? Because there's times where I preach in series as well. I like to have kind of like a study week or something like that. So I'll go away and I'll be praying through and thinking through and listening to sermons, and I'll be reading, thinking, okay, where are we going as a church? What do we need? Okay, I feel because of the direction that we are going in. This is where I feel we need to go. So I have a bit of a background study, and then I will start my study on Monday morning. And I'm constantly asking, where are you? Where are you? So I'm chipping and I'm chiseling and I'm studying and I'm reading. But what does that process look like for you? How do you get to that tension, and how do you get to that main point?
Yeah, so the way that it has to work for me, and this is just I'm a systems oriented person. It's just how God wired me. This may sound very unspiritual, but it's just the way that I work. I have a workflow the week leading up to any given sermon that I preach, and I have deadlines along the way. So that bottom line has to be established by a certain time, and the outline has to be done by a certain time. And one of the ways in our system is that we have a preaching team. I talk about this in my first book, Preaching Killer Sermons. I think it's really helpful to have, we call it a sermon planning team, where we are looking 4 weeks out at when we're on top of things. COVID kind of messed some of this up, but when we're on top of things, we're looking 4 weeks out at any given sermon, and whoever's preaching that given week will present, hey, this is what I'm thinking for my bottom line, my points. And then we comb through it together to talk through the text, to look for the tension. And so that process alone, having that group scenario, backs up the process quite a bit. So by the time I get to the week leading up to the sermon, I've really got most of everything mapped out. And so there's only a couple of days, Monday and Tuesday, where I'm finalizing things like each point is going to bolster and strengthen the bottom line. But each point needs to have 3 elements. I need to teach the point. In other words, people just need to understand it. I need to explain it. I need to illustrate it, and I need to apply it. And that's a little bit of a checklist for me, so that, because otherwise I don't need to make the point. If the point is important enough to say, it's important enough to explain, illustrate, and apply. And all of those things need to go back to the bottom line, because people aren't going to remember my points, and that's fine. What I want them to know is the bottom line, and how it feels, and how it sits in there, and what it looks like visually to go live it out. And so all of that whole process begins with the bottom line, which has to be established 4 weeks ahead of time. Then week of, I've got to nail down the way that I'm going to move away from the point, illustrate it, apply it, teach it, move back to the point, keep moving through the text, and keep circling back to the bottom line until I get to the end, which is where I want to cast vision of how people can take this and use it in their life. And so I want to cast vision and inspire what it looks like to actually live it out. That's where the life change piece comes in. Thanks for watching. Definitely check out this playlist for 7 steps to write a sermon. I also want to give you my free 21-day guide to creating killer sermons. You can find that at preachingdonkey.com/21days, and I will see you in the next video.